Hello everybody, my name is Maher Mohammedan. Yes, I have been playing Celeste recently, how could you tell? For those who don't know, Celeste is a 2018 tough-as-nails 2D platformer game developed by Extremely OK Games. The game was the brainchild of one Maddie Thorson, who, originally making the game for a game jam, decided to expand the concept into a full-fledged game. And then when it got released, oh boy! The game was universally praised for basically every single part of its existence. The gameplay, the story, the level design, the difficulty, the portrayal of mental health, the characters, and more were all praised to high hill. But I'm not an optimist. That was all 5 years ago. So, when viewing the game and now, 5 years later, does it still hold up to the praise that it got when it first released? Only one way to find out. So the plot is relatively pretty simple. You play as Madeline, this orange-haired girl with mental health issues. She thinks climbing up this mountain will help with her anxiety and depression. Like that would work. Oh wow, it actually worked. As she climbs up the mountain, she comes across many wacky characters, like Wrath, Pride, Denial, and Sloth. Sloth really does not want you to climb this mountain. Why? I don't know, something about your inner demons or something. My personal theory is that she's just really angry that she got stuck with such a dumb name like Madeline, so she wants to go back down the mountain and get her name legally changed at some government office or something. Anyway, you ignore her and continue to climb the mountain over the course of 6 chapters, until you finally confront her and she's like, alright fine, let's climb the mountain together. So you gain a double jump, dye your hair, and climb the mountain. Once it's all said and done and your demons are finally conquered, you make your way down and enjoy a cake. The cake changing its appearance based on how many strawberries you collected during the game. This is the only use strawberries have. There is no other incentive to try and collect them unless you really hate yourself. And that is Celeste. When you oversimplify a lot of it, there is way more that I cut out, and that's on purpose. Mostly because I kind of want to keep this review short, and plus I don't really want to spoil much of it for people who want to play the game. Plus, even if I did summarize the entire thing, like introduce all the side characters and stuff like that, I still stopped at the 7th chapter. There's still a chapter 8 and a chapter 9 and the B story and the C story and So the gameplay is relatively pretty simple. You have 3 moves: jump, dash, and grab. Kinda reminds me of another game with 3 moves. Though comparing Celeste with Fall Guys is like comparing Mario with Dark Souls. Yes, both games have you run around and jump, but that's where the similarities end. In Celeste, the game expects a lot from you in order to make your way through these chapters, which are usually split up into multiple chunks with a clear end goal to make your way to another chunk. And you're able to use your abilities, you have to parkour your way to each section. The dash ability only works once, with you needing to land on the floor or a piece of land before being able to dash again. In the final chapter where you team up with Madeline, you get a double dash, which makes the rest of the game even more frustrating to replay, because God, you showed me the light, why'd you take it away from me? Grab lets you grab onto walls to climb them, though Madeline, the weak loser, gets tired very easily and falls off a lot. And when you jump out grabbing onto a wall, you can usually do a little parkour move to make yourself look epic. And this moveset is complemented with the most unforgiving level design, which has many obstacles that can one-shot kill you. There are extra challenges hidden in the game if you woke up today and chose violence, usually rewarding you with a strawberry that gives you nothing more than a slightly different ending, which I can search up on YouTube, so why bother? The ending of some chapters do have you do a little boss fight, which most of the time is you running away from an enemy or trying to get a little hit on them. And to be honest, these are probably the easiest part of the game. I don't know why. I'm weird. Also, every chapter introduces a unique gimmick, like these bubble things that move in one direction depending on where you dash, or a feather that's one of the few fun things about Celeste. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I could go in more in depth on the obstacles or chapters or characters, but I don't really want to. Plus, I know you guys want me to talk more about this Terraria reject. First things first, the music's good. The music has this motif for Madeline that I do quite like, even if it does get a bit repetitive as the game goes on. Another pro is the pixel art. It's very squish, me-like. Plus the backgrounds as well, they are very detailed. So detailed they do clash with the character designs a bit, but it doesn't matter because squish. The character designs are very simple, but it's by design, and I feel like if they were more detailed, it would be way harder to focus on when platforming, so it's a necessary evil. Another pro are the characters. As much as I skipped out on them, I do think they're all fairly unique and quirky in their own way. And I do appreciate how character lore or just story stuff in general is mostly hidden, usually need to trigger yourself, which I appreciate a lot. Some people, like me, just want to play the game, or just want to get the game over with. I don't really care for the story side, so the ability to skip all that is greatly appreciated. Ditto goes to the strawberries being optional. You aren't locked from regression if you don't collect X amount of strawberries, but they are always there for an extra challenge if you really want to. Another pro is the moveset. It just feels nice to control Madeline, and it feels nicer if you're able to do an entire chunk without failing it. The level design may be cruel, but as you play more and more and your muscle memory improves, God, it's satisfying. Another pro would obviously be the accurate portrayal of mental health, though I won't go too much in depth into how it was handled, mostly since other people have already made different videos discussing it in a way I can never do justice. So I highly recommend watching those if you want a more detailed dive into how good and accurate Celeste portrayed mental health. I just don't think I personally could talk about it in a way that could do it justice, if you know what I mean. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Now time for the cons, where people will never discredit me by saying that I'm bad at the game. It's true, but ignore that. First things first, the game's hard, man. I know most people will see this as a weak con or make fun of me for being bad at a game, but believe you me, I don't play 7 chapters and be bad. I'm good at this game. I have over 1,000 crowns on Fall. Let's talk for a second. I'm gonna be completely honest for a second. I've been trying to write this script for months, but I found it extremely difficult to, and I don't know why. Writing cons for this game was just hard for me. Now you might think that means I had no issues with this game to warrant any cons, but that's not true. I had cons for the game. I just couldn't think of any or really understood how to write it down or really speak what those cons were. And now I finally figured it out. I'm just not a big fan of Celeste. I respect the game, no doubt. I don't even hate it, to be fair. I completed the game, I had a good time. But I don't really have a pull to go back to it. I didn't really have a pull to play it at first anyway. I'm completely indifferent to this game. Yeah, I'll probably play when I'm bored or something, but this game is destined to go unplayed on my Steam library after this. I think a good way to explain what's happening is, you ever hear of a show or a game or a movie that everyone talks about and mentions how good it is, how much of an emotional reaction it caused, how genre-defying it is, so you go to watch it or play it and you feel nothing? You didn't hate it, but you also didn't love it. You didn't get the hype, but you didn't necessarily find it bad. It's a means to an end. That's me with Celeste. I'm aware of the impact it had, but I don't know. I just don't really stick with the game. And maybe it's my fault. Maybe if I play it again and be probably immersed in the game without having distractions and didn't skip the cutscenes, maybe the game would hit me more. That's what happened with Undertale and Deltarune. I went into those games blind with a joke mentality, and while I liked the games a lot, I didn't really understand the insane amount of hype the game had. But then, after watching a few videos and replayed it a few more times, it's now become one of my favorite games of all time. But who knows, since unlike Undertale where I had fun with the game, even when I went to it as a joke, I still don't have the urge to play Celeste, even while I was playing Celeste. Undertale I purposely only played a tiny bit per day, since I didn't want the game to end. Celeste? I went weeks without playing it because I didn't care to complete it. Maybe it just boils down to preference. SpongeBob is my favorite show of all time, but I know people who aren't a fan of SpongeBob, and that's okay. It really is just personal preference. And once again, I'm not saying the game is bad. My biggest issue is I think it can be hard or cause temporary rage. But even ignoring that, I don't know, the game just doesn't grab me the way it grabs others. The reason why I have and will continue to really not touch upon the mental health aspect of the game that much, besides minor mentions, is because the game didn't hit me in a way where I feel like I could do it justice without messing it up. But like I said, I think that's okay. I'm aware of the impact and I'm not blind to the pros of the game. The pros section exists for a reason. But I don't know. I think this is a game that I respect more than I like. Kinda weird to go back to the more normal, quick format after doing this section. Screw it. Overall, Celeste is a fun game. While I do feel like the hype was a bit overblown, it's definitely not a bad game, and I'm glad that an indie company like Extremely OK Games was able to win so many awards and accolades, even if I feel like the hype was overblown just a bit. At least I finally beat the game. Now people won't complain about anything else. Hey, you should play the B-side or C-side stories.